The graduation party lights shone brightly, reflecting a kaleidoscope of colors on the excited faces of my classmates. The music pulsed in the air, a mix of rhythms that made everyone move, laughing and dancing. But deep down, I felt a little out of place, as if I were watching everything through a foggy window. The smell of popcorn and sweets mingled with the warm breeze of the night, and fireworks began to burst in the sky, coloring it red, blue, and green. I looked around, searching for Tyler. He had always been my safe harbor, the friend who knew all my secrets and fears. He was there, amidst the crowd, laughing with a group of friends. His smile lit up the space, as if he were made of pure light. But there was something in his gaze that intrigued me, a depth I couldn't decipher. "Sarah," he called out, waving his hand. My heart raced. It was as if the world around us had vanished. I walked over to him, trying to ignore the anxiety building inside me. "Hey, Tyler, are you having fun?" I asked, forcing a smile. "Of course. This night is amazing. Did you see the fireworks?" He gestured to the sky, where a new burst of color lit up the darkness. "It feels like everything is celebrating. It's beautiful." I looked at the sky, but my mind was elsewhere. "Are you okay? You seem different." Tyler hesitated, as if weighing his words. "I'm just thinking about a few things. You know how it is, graduation. The end of one era, the beginning of another." Those words resonated within me. It was true. We were about to say goodbye to a phase of life we had shared since childhood. "I know. It's a big step. But what comes next for us?" He looked at me for a moment, his expression shifting to something more serious. "I don't know, Sarah. I just know that I don't want to lose you, no matter what happens." I felt a flutter in my stomach, a mix of fear and hope. "You won't lose me. We'll always be together, right?" "Yes, always." He smiled, but there was a sadness in his eyes that I couldn't understand. "Just promise me that I'll be honest with you tonight. About everything." "About everything?" I asked, my curiosity growing. What was he trying to say? What was he hiding? "Yes." He took a deep breath, as if preparing for a leap. "I think it's time I tell you some things I've been holding back. Things that could change everything between us." The beats of my heart echoed in my ears. "Tyler, you're scaring me. What's going on?" He looked at the sky again, the fireworks bursting in a series of explosions that lit up our faces. "Shall we take a walk?" "I need some air." I agreed, and together we moved away from the party toward a quieter area where the music and chatter became just a distant murmur. The sky was filled with stars, and the gentle breeze seemed to wrap us in a warm embrace. "Tyler," I began, but he raised his hand, asking me to wait. "Sarah, you know I've always been your best friend, right?" He took my hand, and the connection between us was instant, as if an invisible thread tied us together. "Yes, I know, and I'll always be your friend, no matter what happens." What he was about to say made me nervous, but at the same time, a part of me was eager to hear. "It's just that I've been feeling something more for you, you know, for a while now. Something that goes beyond friendship." My words failed for a moment. What he was saying was something I had also felt, but had never had the courage to admit. "Tyler, you're serious?" "Extremely serious." He looked me in the eyes, and the intensity of his gaze almost took my breath away. "I can't hide it anymore. You're the most incredible person I know, and I can't imagine my life without you by my side. I love you, Sarah." The confession hung in the air like the fireworks bursting in the sky. My heart raced, a mix of joy and confusion. I didn't know you felt that way. I have feelings for you too, Tyler. But what if this changes everything between us? I'm willing to take that risk. He squeezed my hand tighter, as if trying to convey his determination. The friendship we have is amazing, but I feel like we could have something even more special. I don't want to spend another day without being honest with you. I looked at him, trying to process everything. The fear of losing our friendship was real, but the idea of not exploring what could be between us was even scarier. What if it doesn't work out? What if it ruins everything? Sometimes, we need to take risks to find out what's truly worth it. He moved closer, and the electricity between us was palpable. Life is short, Sarah. Let's live what we feel. His words echoed in my mind, and at that moment, everything seemed to fall into place. The fear began to dissipate, replaced by a wave of hope. You're right. We can try. Let's see where this takes us. Tyler smiled, and his smile lit up my heart. Then let's do this together. I want to discover every part of you, every dream, every fear. And I want to discover you too, Tyler. I'll always be here, no matter what happens. The fireworks burst above us, and as the bright colors reflected in his eyes, I realized we were about to embark on a new journey, one that could change the course of our lives forever. And as scary as it was, I was ready to take that step alongside him. The graduation party lights shone brightly, reflecting the effervescent joy that filled the air. I was surrounded by friends, but Tyler's presence stood out like a star in a sky full of lights. He was there, with his shy smile and deep gaze, and I felt my heart race every time our eyes met. The loud music and laughter echoed around us, but there was something more lingering between us, something I couldn't ignore. As the fireworks began to explode in the sky, a wave of emotion washed over me. It was a magical moment, but at the same time, I was aware that something needed to be said. The glow of the colorful explosions lit up our friends' faces, but I could only see Tyler. He was closer now, the scent of his cologne mingling with the aroma of popcorn and cotton candy wafting from the stalls. "Sarah," he said, his voice almost drowned out by the roar of the fireworks. "Let's go outside. I want to show you something." Curious and a little nervous, I nodded and followed him away from the hustle and bustle. We walked to the lake, where the stars reflected on the calm water, creating a fairy tale setting. The sound of fireworks still echoed in the background, but here, in that moment, everything felt calmer and more intimate. "Look," Tyler pointed to the sky, where the bright colors were still dancing. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" "It's amazing," I replied, feeling my heart race. "But it's not as beautiful as the company." He turned to me, and I could see the seriousness in his eyes. "Sarah, there's something I need to tell you. Something I've been holding on to for a long time." The air around us seemed to grow denser. I knew this moment was crucial, and the anticipation made me anxious. "What is it, Tyler? You can tell me." He took a deep breath, as if preparing for a big revelation. "Ever since we were kids, I've always had feelings for you, and it's only grown over the years. I can't hide it anymore." My heart skipped a beat. His words echoed in my mind, and I felt a mix of relief and fear. "Are you serious? I never knew you felt that way. I know it's a lot, and I don't want to put pressure on you, but I can't ignore it any longer. Looking at you and not expressing how I feel has become unbearable," he said, his eyes locked on mine. "You are the most important person in my life, and I want you to know that." "Tyler," I hesitated, the words getting caught in my throat. I also have feelings for you. I always have, but I never knew how to say it." He smiled, a smile that lit up his face and melted my heart. "Really? You have no idea how that makes me feel." I never thought we would have this kind of conversation, especially here and now, I said, laughing nervously. But it's also intense. I know, and I don't want this to ruin our friendship. But at the same time, I can't just be your friend. Not anymore. The tension in the air was palpable, and I felt torn between joy and the fear of the unknown. Tyler, what if this doesn't work? What if we ruin everything? I'd rather take the risk and have you in my life in any capacity than not try and live with the weight of not having done anything, he said, his voice steady. What do you think? I looked at the lake, reflecting on everything he had said. The sound of the fireworks began to fade, but the reality of the moment felt more explosive than any pyrotechnic display. I want to try, I finally replied, feeling a wave of courage wash over me. I want to see where this can lead us. Tyler moved closer, and I could feel his presence like a magnetic force. Then let's do this together. Let's find out what the future holds for us. I nodded, and in a sudden impulse, he pulled me close. Our faces were so near that I could feel his breath. Sarah, he murmured, you are everything I've ever wanted. And before I could respond, he kissed me, a soft kiss, filled with all the emotions we had been holding back. The world around us faded away, and all that mattered was that moment, that touch, that connection that finally came to life. When we broke apart, I was breathless, my heart racing. Wow, I said, trying to gather my thoughts. That was incredible. Yeah, it was, he agreed, a satisfied smile on his face. I've waited so long for this. The sky was still lit up by the last fireworks, but the real spectacle was happening right there between us. I felt like I had crossed a line, something that would change our lives forever. The doubts and fears were still there, but I was willing to face them. After all, we had each other, and that was all that mattered in that moment. Tyler, what do we do now? I asked, a little unsure but filled with hope. Now, he said, taking my hand, we enjoy what we have. Let's be honest with each other and see where this leads us. And if things get tough, we'll face it together. Together, I repeated, feeling a warmth spread through my body. The idea of being together, of really giving our relationship a chance, was both terrifying and exciting. That night by the lake, under the stars and the distant echoes of the party, would become a cherished memory. And I knew that no matter what lay ahead, Tyler and I were ready to face the future, side by side. The graduation party was in full swing, and the loud music reverberated through the hall decorated with golden and silver balloons. The lights were flashing, creating an almost magical atmosphere, and I got lost for a few moments just watching the happiness around me. Everyone seemed so excited, laughing and dancing, but deep down, I felt a growing restlessness. It was the last night before everyone went their separate ways, and the thought of leaving Tyler behind knotted my throat. Sarah, come here. You need to see this. Tyler's voice cut through my thoughts. He was near the dessert table, holding a cupcake with pink frosting and a mischievous look in his eyes. I smiled, feeling a warmth grow inside me. Since we were kids, we always had a special connection. He was more than a friend. He was like a brother, but there was something more that I could never articulate. You're not going to eat all of that by yourself, are you? I teased, moving closer to him. Leave some for the others. Tyler took a generous bite of the cupcake, looking at me with a challenging expression. Only if you share that beautiful smile of yours. I believe it's worth more than any treat here. The comment caught me off guard, and I laughed nervously, trying to hide the blush creeping up my face. Are you trying to leave me speechless, Tyler? Maybe. Or maybe I just want you to know how special you are to me. He took another bite of the cupcake, and I stared at him, feeling my heart race. This wasn't the first time he had left me speechless, but there was something different in the tone of his voice. "Hey, shall we go outside?" I suggested, trying to change the subject, but at the same time eager to understand what was happening. "I think we need some fresh air." He nodded, and together we headed to the school garden, where the fireworks were starting to light up the night sky. The stars were hidden behind the colorful explosions, and I felt a bit more at ease. The smell of freshly cut grass and the coolness of the night comforted me. "Look, Tyler." I pointed to the fireworks, trying to divert attention from the atmosphere that was building between us. "They're amazing." "Yeah, but not as amazing as you," he replied, his gaze fixed on me. I could feel the intensity of his words, and it made me a little uneasy. "Tyler, you always know how to make me feel shy." I laughed, but it was a nervous laugh. He moved a little closer, and the space between us seemed to vanish. "Sarah, I need to tell you something," he started. The seriousness in his voice caught me off guard. "Since we were kids, I've always felt that there was something special between us. And as we grew up, it only got stronger. Sometimes, I wonder if you feel the same." My heart raced. What was he saying? It was as if he was tearing away a veil I had kept over my own feelings. I had always known there was something more between us, but I never had the courage to admit it. "Tyler," the words failed me. I wanted to say that I felt the same, that I always had, but the fear of ruining our friendship was overwhelming. "I don't want this to ruin our friendship, but I can't ignore it anymore. You're the person I care about the most, and the thought of not having you in my life scares me." He looked at me, his eyes deeper than I remembered. "Even though we're about to go our separate ways, I need you to know. I feel the same, Tyler." I finally managed to say, the truth slipping out of my lips. I've always felt there was something more between us, but I was scared. Scared of what it could mean for us. A soft smile began to form on his lips, and I felt a wave of relief. "You don't know how much this means to me," he said, his gaze softening. "I think if we're honest with each other, we can face whatever comes next." The sky exploded with more colors, and for a moment, all we could do was stare at each other. The sound of the fireworks was deafening, but all I could hear was my heart racing uncontrollably. There was no room for doubt anymore. What we felt was real, and I was ready to explore it. "Let's make a pact," I said, trying to bring some lightness to the situation. "We promise that no matter what happens, we won't let this ruin our friendship." He smiled, and his eyes sparkled like the fireworks in the sky. "I promise, Sarah. I'll always be here for you, no matter what happens." His words warmed me, and I knew we were ready to embark on a new chapter in our lives. The tension that had once bothered me now felt like a promise of something greater, something we were about to discover together. "Hey, do you remember how we used to make plans about the future?" Tyler asked, breaking the comfortable silence that had formed between us. "Of course. We always talked about traveling and exploring the world." I laughed, recalling those moments of innocence. "But now, it seems like everything is about to change." "Yeah, but that doesn't mean we can't make those plans together," he replied, his gaze lost in the vastness of the sky. "The future may be uncertain, but I want you by my side, no matter where life takes us." I smiled, feeling a wave of hope. "I want that too, Tyler. Let's face whatever comes together." And in that moment, as the fireworks continued to burst in the sky, I realized I was no longer alone. The future was still a mystery, but now I had someone by my side, and that made everything brighter and full of possibilities. The graduation party was in full swing. and the sound of laughter and toasts filled the warm night air. The bright lights of the decorations were still twinkling, reflecting the joy and anticipation of the future. I was surrounded by my friends, but a part of me was distant, lost in thought. That's when I saw Tyler approaching, his expression serious and a bit nervous. "Hi, Sarah," he said, letting out a shy smile. "Do you have a minute?" "Sure, Ty. What's up?" I asked, feeling my heart race. There was something in his expression that made me uneasy. He had always been someone I could trust, but at that moment, a flutter in my stomach made me question what was coming. "Shall we take a walk?" he suggested, gesturing toward the garden where the fireworks were starting to shine. I agreed, and together we walked away from the bustle of the party. The contrast between the sound of the music and the tranquility of the garden was almost palpable. As soon as we reached a more secluded corner, Tyler turned to me, his face illuminated by the colors of the fireworks exploding in the sky. "Sarah, I need to tell you something," he started. The hesitation in his voice intrigued me. "Go ahead, Ty. You know you can tell me anything," I replied, trying to encourage him, but his expression only seemed to grow more serious. He took a deep breath, as if preparing to leap into an abyss. "Remember when we were kids and made those future plans together? About how we were going to take on the world?" He laughed, but there was a sadness in his eyes. "I was thinking about that, and I don't know how to say this without sounding like an idiot." "Ty, you're never an idiot. Just say it, please," I urged, growing more anxious. What he was about to say seemed important, and I wanted him to feel at ease. "Okay, the truth is, I've been feeling differently about you. It's not just friendship, you know?" He hesitated again, and I felt my heart race. "I like you, Sarah, in a way that goes beyond friendship, and I don't know how it happened, but it's been hard for me to deal with." I fell silent, his words reverberating in my mind. Tyler liked me? A whirlwind of emotions overwhelmed me. Part of me was in shock, but another part had known this all along, as if my heart had recognized the truth before he even spoke. "Ty, I don't know what to say," I murmured, my voice barely a whisper. The sky was lit up by fireworks, but at that moment, all I could see was his vulnerable expression. "I don't expect you to feel the same," he said quickly, his voice filled with a melancholy that cut me. "I just needed to tell you. I couldn't keep this anymore, and if it means our friendship will change, then I'll have to deal with it." "Ty, don't think like that," I said, trying to find the right words. I've also been feeling something different. I didn't know how to say it. I always thought it was just a phase, something temporary." His eyes lit up with the hope I didn't know I could provoke. "Really? Are you serious?" He seemed so vulnerable, so sincere, and that gave me a wave of courage. "Yes, I am. Since we met, you've always been someone special to me. I just didn't know it could be more than friendship. But now, seeing you here, I realize how much you mean to me," I said, the warmth of my words burning with sincerity. "I just want you to know that I'm here," he began, taking a step closer to me. "Whatever happens, I want us to try. If it doesn't work out, at least we tried. Right?" "Right," I breathed, feeling a wave of relief and happiness. "But what if it does work? What can we do with that?" "Then we'll find out together," he smiled. A smile so genuine it made me feel like everything was finally falling into place. The sound of fireworks exploding above us seemed to celebrate the moment, a symphony of light and color perfectly matching the new reality we were about to explore. "Tyler, you know this is a big step, right?" I said, trying to grasp the depth of our conversation. "I know, But who said big steps can't be fun? I've always loved the idea of us together. And if things get weird, well, at least we'll have stories to tell. He laughed, and I couldn't help but smile too, the lightness of his presence calming me. You're right, and I want this. I want you, I replied, feeling like a new light had been lit inside me. The fear of the unknown was still there, but it was overshadowed by the excitement of what was to come. Let's do this, he said, reaching out his hand. I took it, and that simple gesture made my heart race. From now on, it's us. The feeling of our hands intertwined was electrifying, as if the world around us had faded away and all that mattered were the two of us. As the fireworks continued to sparkle in the sky, I knew we were ready to face whatever came next, together. The loud, festive music echoed around us as the fireworks exploded in the sky, coloring the night in vibrant shades of red, blue, and gold. The graduation party was in full swing, but my heart was beating to a completely different rhythm. I looked at Tyler, who was beside me, his eyes reflecting the bright lights, but there was something more there, a depth I had never noticed before. Do you remember when we were kids and we used to make plans about the future? He asked, his voice almost drowned out by the music. I turned to him, feeling a flutter in my stomach as I recalled the innocent promises we made, dreaming of being astronauts, doctors, or even rock stars. But now, on the brink of adulthood, everything seemed more complicated. Of course I do, I replied, trying to keep my voice light. I think you wanted to be a superhero, right? I smiled, but my expression soon faded when I realized he was serious. Yeah, I did. But really, I just wanted to be someone you looked at and said, wow, he's amazing. He laughed, but there was a vulnerability in his gaze that made my heart race. Tyler, you are amazing, I said, feeling the urgency of the truth in my words. You always have been. He shook his head, seeming lost in thought. But what if I'm not what you expect? What if I can't be that person? What would you do? The question hung in the air, heavy like the smoke from the fireworks still bursting above us. I wanted to answer, but the words felt stuck in my throat. In that moment, I realized the real question wasn't about what he could or couldn't be, but about how I felt about him. There had always been something deeper between us, an invisible thread that connected us but had never been named. I don't know, I finally murmured. I just know that you're important to me, Tyler. Very important. He looked at me, and the intensity of his gaze made my heart race. What if I told you I feel the same? That I've always felt that way? The declaration came out like a whisper, but carried the weight of 1,000 unspoken words. Tyler, you can't be serious, I replied, trying to process the enormity of it. It was as if the ground beneath my feet had disappeared, and I was floating in a sea of emotions. I'm serious, Sarah. It's always been you. From the beginning. I tried to ignore it. I tried to move on, but I couldn't. And now, here, at this party, with the fireworks bursting and people having fun, I can't hide it anymore. The world around us faded into a blur. The music, the laughter, everything disappeared as the truth hung between us. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run, but something kept me there, in his presence. Tyler, I didn't know. I never knew you felt that way about me, I said, my voice trembling. I always thought we were just friends. That's what I wanted it to be, but that's not how my heart works, he replied, frustration evident in his tone. I don't want this to ruin our friendship, but I also can't keep living a lie. I don't know how to react to this, I confessed, confusion overtaking me. What I felt for him was complex, a mix of affection and something deeper that I had never been able to name. "You don't have to react now, but I needed to tell you," he said, his voice softer. "I just wanted you to know the truth." Silence settled between us, and I used that time to reflect. Memories of our moments together began to flash through my mind like a movie. The laughter, the shared secrets, the sunny afternoons in the park when he held my hand while we rode bikes. That was more than friendship. There was a connection there that I hadn't recognized before. I feel something for you too, Tyler," I finally managed to say. "I just didn't know how to deal with it. I always thought it would push us apart." He smiled, a smile that lit up his face and made my heart melt. I had that fear too, but now that the truth is out, maybe we can figure this out together? The idea was both terrifying and exciting. I could see a future unfolding before me, a future I had never imagined but now seemed possible. "I want to try," I replied, feeling a wave of courage wash over me. "I want to see where this leads us." "Then let's do this," he said, extending his hand to me. I took it, feeling the warmth and security I had always found in his touch. The sky lit up even more as the fireworks continued to explode, and everything around us seemed to align perfectly. In that moment, I realized that life wasn't just about what we expected, but about the surprises it held for us. "You know," I said, looking at the bright lights, "maybe being a superhero isn't so bad after all, as long as I'm by your side." He laughed, and his laughter was like music to my ears. "Then welcome to my world of superheroes, Sarah. Let's do this together." And so, under the light of the fireworks, we began to write a new chapter in our lives, a chapter full of possibilities and, who knows, perhaps even love. The music from the graduation party echoed through the hall, and I could feel the vibrant energy in the air. The lights flashed, reflecting the joy and anticipation of the moment. It was a magical night, and deep down in my heart, I knew something special was about to happen. With every laugh mingling with the music, I looked around and saw familiar faces, but there was one that stood out among them all: Tyler. He was there, in a corner of the dance floor, laughing and chatting with friends, but his eyes always seemed to be searching for mine. I approached him, my heart racing at the thought that we would finally have a moment alone. "Tyler," I called, trying to disguise the anxiety in my voice. "Hi, Sarah." He smiled, his face illuminated by the soft light surrounding the party. "What an amazing night, right?" "Absolutely. I can't believe we're graduating. It feels like just yesterday we were playing in the park." Nostalgia enveloped us, and a wave of happy memories transported us back to those carefree childhood days. "It's true. Time flies, doesn't it?" He looked down at the ground, as if he were contemplating something deeper. "It's just, I don't know if I'm ready to leave all of this behind." I felt a pang in my chest. I wasn't ready either. But there was more in his voice, a vulnerability I had never noticed before. "What do you mean by that?" He hesitated for a second, as if weighing his words. "I'm talking about us, about what comes next. I feel like we need to talk about some things." My heart stopped for a moment. "Tyler, you're scaring me. What do you mean by US?" He stepped closer, his eyes locked on mine. "Sarah, I can't hide it anymore. I like you. I've always liked you. And I don't know what's going to happen to us after graduation, but I don't want to miss this chance to tell you." His words hit me like a bolt of lightning. I had always known, in some way, that there was something special between us, but hearing it from Tyler, right there that night, made my world spin. "Tyler, I didn't know you felt that way. Why didn't you tell me before?" "I was scared of ruining our friendship, of losing you. But now, Seeing all of us graduating and going in different directions, I realize I can't stay silent anymore. I heard the fireworks bursting outside, but all I could focus on was what was in front of me. I feel something for you too, Tyler. I've always felt it. But what if it complicates everything? What if it doesn't work out? What if it does? He replied, a sparkle in his eyes. Life is about taking risks, Sarah, and I don't want to live a life full of what-ifs. I want to live in the now, with you. I felt the warmth of his words enveloping me, and an involuntary smile spread across my face. You're right. I don't want to look back and wonder what could have been. He took a step closer, and the distance between us seemed to shrink. So, what do you think about us trying? We can see where it takes us. No pressure. I would love that, Tyler. The response came out so naturally it surprised me. But what if things get complicated? What if people don't accept it? I don't care what others think. What matters is how we feel, what we want. He smiled, and in that moment, I saw the sincerity in his eyes. The music in the background seemed to fade, and everything around us blurred. We were there, in our own world, and I didn't want that moment to end. Let's enjoy the party and think about what comes next later, I suggested. Deal. He smiled, and the tension between us began to dissipate, replaced by a lightness I didn't know I needed. The party continued, and we danced, laughed, and celebrated with friends. But there was a new connection between us. As the fireworks exploded in the sky, I lost myself in the idea that everything was about to change. I looked at Tyler, and he stared back at me, a satisfied smile on his face. Are you okay? He asked, concern in his tone. I'm great. In fact, I feel more alive than ever. And it was true. The adrenaline from the revelation and the possibility of what could come next was electrifying. I feel that way too. And I want you to know that I'm here, no matter what happens. He held my hand, and that simple gesture made me feel like everything would be okay. The night dragged on, and every second by his side made me feel like the problems of the world outside didn't matter. It was as if we were in a bubble, protected from reality. The music changed again, and a soft ballad began to play. Want to dance? Tyler asked, extending his hand to me. Of course. I accepted, and he gently pulled me closer. The music wrapped around our bodies, and as we danced, I felt the warmth of his presence. I can't believe we're here, finally together. Me neither. But I'm glad we finally have this chance, he replied, looking into my eyes. You're amazing, Sarah. You always have been. And you're my best friend, Tyler. That will never change. He pulled me a little closer, and in that moment, I realized that everything I feared could be overcome. We were ready to face anything together, and the uncertainties of life seemed much easier to handle when we were side by side. The fireworks began to burst again, coloring the night sky in vibrant hues. Look, I said, pointing at the explosions of light. It's beautiful. Not as much as you, he replied, and my heart raced. There simply weren't enough words to describe what was happening inside me. It was a mix of happiness, fear, and an emotion I had never felt before. I knew that night would mark the beginning of something new, something that could change our lives forever. And so, under the light of the fireworks, we danced and dreamed, ready to discover what the future held for us. The soft music from the band in the background felt like a distant echo as the fireworks began to light up the night sky. The colorful explosions seemed to reflect the mix of emotions I felt inside. I was at the graduation party, an event that should have been just about celebrations and goodbyes. But at that moment, all I wanted was to step away from the crowd and enter a world where only Tyler and I existed. Tyler was beside me, looking up at the sky with an expression I couldn't decipher. He had always been my closest friend, but that night, something felt different. There was a tension in the air, an expectation that felt palpable. I didn't know if it was just the magic of the moment or if something deeper was forming between us. "Are you okay?" I asked, breaking the silence between us. He turned his head and looked at me with those deep brown eyes that had always been so expressive. "I am. Just thinking about all of this, you know? Graduation, the future. Yeah, it's a lot to process," I replied, trying to hide the restlessness that was growing inside me. It wasn't just graduation that worried him. I felt there was something more. "You're going to college in Austin, right?" "Yeah, and you are too. We'll be just a few hours apart, but still together, right?" His voice sounded hopeful, but there was a hesitation I couldn't ignore. "Of course. We'll keep in touch and everything," I said, trying to soothe the anxiety building in my chest. But at the same time, something inside me wanted more than just to stay in touch. I wanted him to know how I truly felt. The first bursts of fireworks lit up the sky, and I found myself lost in thought. I remembered all the memories I shared with Tyler, the laughter, the adventures, the secrets. There had always been a special connection, but we never had the courage to explore it. Now, with graduation approaching, it felt like time was slipping through our fingers, and I didn't want to miss the chance to be honest. "Tyler, there's something I need to tell you," I started, my voice trembling slightly. He turned completely towards me, the expression on his face shifting to a mix of curiosity and concern. "What is it, Sarah?" He seemed genuinely interested, and that gave me a little more courage. "It's about us, about what we mean to each other. I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like there's something more between us than just friendship. And I don't know if you feel that too, but I feel like I need to tell you before we go our separate ways." He blinked, surprised, and for a moment, the world around us disappeared. Only the two of us existed in that space. "Are you serious?" His voice was almost a whisper, the intensity of his gaze making me feel exposed and vulnerable. "Yes, I've always worried about ruining our friendship, but the longer it goes on, the harder it gets to keep this to myself. I like you, Tyler, more than I should. And I don't want it to end without you knowing." He was silent for a moment, and the noise of the party around us seemed distant. I could see the confusion on his face, but there was also something else, a spark of understanding. "Sarah, I also have those feelings. I've always had them, but I didn't know if you felt the same, and I didn't want to risk our friendship." My heart raced at his words. "You really feel that? I thought I was alone in this. I worried so much about losing you that I ended up saying nothing. But now, hearing you, it feels like we're on the same page. It's crazy, right?" He laughed nervously, and I laughed along, relieved. "Yeah, but it's also a little scary. What do we do with this now?" I asked, the fear that everything could collapse in front of me growing again. "I don't know, but I want to try. I want to explore this with you," he said, the sincerity in his voice making me feel a wave of hope. "We have so much time ahead of us. We can start to see where this takes us." The sky lit up again with another explosion of colors, and I looked up, feeling a mix of relief and happiness. Tyler was there, by my side, and that was all I needed at that moment. "So, where do we start?" I asked, turning my gaze back to him. "How about we start here? Right now? Together?" He smiled, and that smile lit up my world more than any fireworks ever could. "Yes, together," I replied, and before I knew it, he leaned in and gave me a soft kiss. It was a gentle touch, but the warmth and emotion I felt were indescribable. It was as if all our memories, all the smiles and tears we shared, came together in that moment. When we pulled away, my eyes met his, and everything felt clear. So, let's enjoy this graduation and the new phase ahead. We have a future in front of us, and I'm excited to discover it with you, I said, excitement enveloping me. Me too. I can't believe I waited so long for this, he said, and then, as if the world had started spinning again, the sounds of the party began to intensify once more. It was as if reality had returned, and now everything felt different. Shall we dance? I asked, pulling him to the center of the dance floor, where others were having fun. The music played a melody that felt made for us, and as we danced, I couldn't stop smiling. Not just because of the party, but because of the new possibility that now existed between us. As the fireworks continued to burst in the sky, I knew that night would mark the beginning of something extraordinary. And, next to Tyler, I was ready to face the future, no matter what it held. The graduation party was in full swing. The bright lights and laughter echoing around me created a magical atmosphere. However, I was distant, caught up in my own thoughts. I looked at Tyler, who was chatting animatedly with some friends, his smile lighting up the room. It was hard to believe that in just a few hours, we would all be going our separate ways, each in pursuit of our own dreams. My feelings for Tyler had always been complicated. Since childhood, there had always been something special between us, a connection that seemed to transcend time. But I never had the courage to admit it. The fear of ruining our friendship paralyzed me, and now, on the brink of graduation, that feeling only grew stronger. As the fireworks began to burst in the sky, I painted a small smile on my face. The spectacle was incredible, but I couldn't take my eyes off Tyler. He looked so happy, so free. I wanted to join him, to share that moment, but a part of me hesitated. Would it be selfish of me to want him to feel the same? Did he even think of me that way? Sarah. Tyler's voice pulled me back to reality. He was by my side, his eyes sparkling with excitement. You have to see this. The fireworks are amazing. Yeah, they are, I replied, trying to contain my emotions. It's all so beautiful. He turned to me, his expression shifting to something more serious. Are you okay? You seem distant. I am. Just thinking about us, I guess, I murmured, looking away. About us? He frowned, and for a moment, the world around us seemed to disappear. It was as if we were in a bubble, just the two of us. Yeah, about what comes next. What are we going to do when all of this is over? I wanted to say more, but the words got tangled in my throat. I don't know, he replied, his voice soft. But I feel that, whatever happens, we'll always have each other, right? Of course, I said, but my words sounded empty. Was that really what I wanted? Just to keep the friendship? The truth was, I wanted more, but I wasn't sure if he did too. The music changed, and the upbeat rhythm filled the air, but I couldn't focus. Tyler took my hand and pulled me to dance. Let's enjoy the party, Sarah. We can't let this night pass without making memories. I laughed nervously, but I let him guide me to the dance floor. As we danced, the connection between us felt more intense. The way he looked at me, as if he was trying to read my thoughts, made me feel exposed. It was as if, in that moment, he knew exactly how I was feeling. You know, he began, breaking the silence that had settled between us, I've always admired you. Ever since we were kids, you've always had this light. Do you remember that time we had a picnic in the park, and you taught me how to ride a bike? How could I forget? You fell several times. I laughed, recalling the moment. But you didn't give up. That was amazing. It was, and I only managed it because you were there. You've always been my motivation, Sarah." He paused, and the music in the background seemed to soften. "And I've never had the courage to tell you this, but you've always been more than a friend to me." My heart raced. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Tyler, you're serious?" "Yes, I am," he said, his eyes locked on mine. "I think I've always known, but I never wanted to risk our friendship. I didn't want to lose you." "I feel the same way, Tyler. I've always felt that way." The confession escaped me like a breath, almost as if I was freeing myself from a burden I'd carried for so long. "But what do we do now?" He hesitated, as if unsure of what to say next. "I don't know, but I want to find out. I want us to be more than friends. I want us to be us." The weight of his words enveloped me. Everything around us seemed to fade, and I could only focus on him. "Do you really want this? After everything?" "Yes," he replied, the determination in his voice warming my heart. "Life is taking us in different directions, but that doesn't mean we have to drift apart. We can make this work." More fireworks exploded in the sky, and for a moment, everything felt perfect. Tyler leaned in closer, and I could smell him. A mix of freshness and something I had always considered familiar. "Sarah, you are the most special person to me. I want us to be together, no matter where life takes us." Tears welled up in my eyes. I never thought I would hear those words from him. "I want that too, Tyler. I've always wanted that." With a genuine smile, he held my face in his hands, and as if the world around us didn't matter anymore, he leaned in and sealed our lips in a soft, hesitant kiss. It was as if a spell had been cast, and everything around us disappeared. The taste of trust, of friendship transforming into something more, enveloped us. "Wow," I said, as our lips parted. "That was amazing." "I know," Tyler laughed, his gaze sparkling. "And now we just need to figure out how to make this work." "Yes, one day at a time," I agreed, feeling the adrenaline coursing through my veins. The future felt uncertain, but the certainty that we were together gave me courage. "Let's do this, Tyler. Let's figure out what it means to be us." And so, under the light of the fireworks, we felt the world change. We were no longer just Sarah and Tyler, childhood friends. Now we were something more, something I never thought I would have the courage to embrace. And as the fireworks continued to shine in the sky, I knew we were ready to face whatever life had in store for us. The loud, upbeat music from the graduation party filled the atmosphere, but somehow everything felt distant. The sparkle of the fireworks cut across the night sky, reflecting in my eyes and making my heart race. I was surrounded by friends, but in that moment, all I could think about was Tyler. The sound of the crowd seemed to fade away, and I found myself in a world of my own. As I watched the fireworks, I couldn't help but remember all the moments we shared. The laughter, the adventures, the promises we made to each other in childhood. Tyler had always been a constant in my life, but at the same time, there was a tension in the air that I didn't know how to decipher. He approached me, his smile illuminated by the light of the colorful explosions. "Sarah, are you okay?" he asked, his voice a bit muffled by the music, yet still clear enough for me to hear the concern. "I am," I replied, trying to hide the whirlwind of emotions bubbling inside me. Just thinking about how everything is changing. Tyler looked up at the sky, as if searching for the words among the stars. It's an important moment, isn't it?" He hesitated, as if weighing the gravity of what he was about to say. I have something I need to tell you." My heart raced. What did he want to tell me? I was overcome with a mix of anxiety and anticipation. "What is it, Tyler?" He sighed, and amid the sound of the fireworks and the laughter around us, the atmosphere felt denser, more intimate. "Remember when we were kids and made those friendship pacts? We always said we'd be there for each other, no matter what happened." I smiled, reminiscing about the carefree days when everything seemed so simple. "Yes, of course. Those were good times." They were. He looked into my eyes, and I felt a flutter in my stomach. "But I'm not here just to reminisce. I need to be honest with you about how I feel." "Tyler," I interrupted, my heart pounding. "You know you can tell me anything. What's going on?" He seemed to hesitate, as if battling something inside him. "Sarah, I like you. Always have. And this isn't just a phase. I feel like, with each passing year, it only grows stronger, and I can't keep it to myself anymore." The world around us faded. The fireworks, the music, the laughter, everything became a distant echo. I looked at him, trying to process his words. You really feel that way?" "Yes," he replied, his voice steady. "And I know it might be unexpected, but I can't keep acting like I don't feel it. You are the most important person in my life, and I don't want to miss the chance for us to be more than friends." I felt a whirlwind of emotions. Part of me was elated, but another part was terrified. "Tyler, this is a big thing to say. I care about you too, more than I can explain. But what if this changes everything between us?" He took a step closer, the intensity in his eyes making me feel vulnerable. "I know it's risky, but some things are worth the risk, Sarah. I don't want to go through my whole life wondering what if. But what if it doesn't work out?" I asked, insecurity creeping into my voice. "What if we end up drifting apart? Then at least we'll know we tried. I don't want to look back years from now and regret not saying anything. I want you to know that, no matter what happens, you will always be important to me. I'm not going anywhere." His words touched me in a way I didn't expect. The sincerity in his gaze, the vulnerability in his voice, all of it made me want to believe. "Tyler, I hesitated, struggling against the avalanche of emotions. "I have feelings for you too, but it's so complicated." "I know it's complicated," he agreed, his gaze soft. "But you don't need to be afraid. We can take it one step at a time. There's no pressure. What matters most is that we're honest with each other." The fireworks continued to burst in the sky, lighting up our faces. I could feel the energy between us, a connection that had always been there but was now becoming tangible. What if we just started by being ourselves? Friends, but with this new truth between us? He smiled, a smile that seemed to bring relief and hope. "That's all I want, Sarah. Just to be me, to be you, and see where that takes us." "Then let's do it," I said, feeling a lightness wash over me. "Let's figure it out together." Tyler stepped forward and, without a second thought, wrapped me in a hug. It was a comforting embrace, as if he were holding not just my body, but all my insecurities too. I closed my eyes, letting myself be carried away by that moment. "I'll always be here for you," he whispered in my ear, and I felt safe. No matter what happens, the warmth of that night, the fireworks, and the distant sounds of the party seemed to merge into a single feeling of hope. From that moment on, everything changed. What had once been a simple friendship now had a new meaning, and I was ready to explore that path with Tyler. As we pulled away from the hug, our gazes met again. The connection was intense, and the anxiety I had felt before was now transforming into excitement. "Shall we enjoy the party then?" I suggested, trying to bring back the lightness that the night was supposed to have. "Yes, let's." he replied, his radiant smile lighting up the room even more. And together, we joined our friends. But now there was a new layer to our relationship, a new understanding. As we danced and laughed, the fireworks continued to light up the sky, and life felt full of possibilities. I knew we were about to embark on a new journey, and although there were uncertainties, what mattered most was that we were together, ready to face whatever came next. I was surrounded by infectious energy, the music pulsing loudly, and the lights from the graduation party in the small Texas town shone like shooting stars. The laughter and joyful shouts of my classmates echoed around me, but deep down, I knew this moment was more than just a celebration. It was a turning point, a watershed moment in our lives. And for me, there was one person who dominated all my thoughts, Tyler. The sky was filled with fireworks, and each explosion of color seemed to reflect the confusion of feelings I carried within me. I saw him from a distance, talking to some friends, his smile lighting up the room. Nostalgia washed over me. Tyler had always been my best friend, the one who knew all my quirks, my secrets, and my fears. But over the years, our friendship had transformed into something deeper, something I didn't know whether to acknowledge or not. Sarah, his voice cut through the music, and my heart raced. He approached me with a sparkle in his eyes that I had never seen before. "You look beautiful tonight." "Thanks, Tyler. You look great too," I replied, trying to hide the nervousness in my voice. He was dressed in a suit that accentuated his athletic figure, and the way he moved through the room left me mesmerized. "Want to dance?" he asked, extending his hand. I hesitated for a moment, but the desire to be close to him overcame my fear. "Sure," I said, placing my hand in his and following him to the dance floor. The music was soft, and as we danced, I got lost in his eyes. It was as if the world around us had disappeared. It was just the two of us, and the tension between us was palpable. With every step, I felt my heart race, and I knew there was something that needed to be said, something we had avoided for too long. "Sarah," he began, breaking the silence, "there's something I need to tell you." My heart leaped in my chest. "What is it, Tyler?" I asked, holding my breath. He looked down for a moment, as if trying to find the right words. "I've been thinking a lot about us, about our friendship, and I feel like there's something more here." My hands were sweaty, and a whirlwind of emotions overtook me. "You feel that too?" I could hardly believe he was confessing something I had held on to for so long. "Yes, I've always felt it, but I never knew how to say it," he admitted, his eyes locked on mine. "I think I was afraid to ruin what we have. But the truth is, since we were kids, I've always liked you." "Tyler," I said, my voice almost failing me, "I like you too. I've always liked you." He smiled, a smile that lit up his face and made my heart melt. "Really? I thought I was alone in this." "No, you were never alone," I replied, my heart finally calming. "I just didn't know how you felt. So, what do we do now?" He looked nervous, but there was a hope in his eyes that encouraged me. "I don't know," I confessed, looking around as people danced, oblivious to our conversation. "We have to think about all this. Our plans, our lives, college." "I know," he said, squeezing my hand, "but I don't want to lose you. I don't want this to push us apart." "Neither do I," I replied, the weight of his words echoing in my mind. "But we need to be honest with each other." He nodded, and at that moment, the music changed to a slow ballad. He pulled me closer, and I felt the warmth of his body against mine. It was as if time had stopped, and all that existed between us was that instant. "Sarah," he whispered, looking at me with an intensity that made me feel as if we were alone in the universe. No matter what happens, I will always be by your side. You are the best part of my life. His words touched me deeply. And you are mine, Tyler. The best part. You always have been. He leaned in to give me a soft kiss, and the world around us disappeared. It was a magical moment, as if the fireworks lighting up the sky were celebrating our new reality. When we pulled away, we were both speechless, but there was a mutual understanding that connected us. The fear of the unknown was still there, but now there was also a promise. A promise that we would face the future together, whatever it may be. Let's go outside, I suggested, pulling him by the hand. We needed a moment alone, away from the hustle and bustle of the party. We stepped out into the garden, where the cool Texas breeze enveloped us. The sky was filled with stars, and the fireworks were still popping in the distance, as if they were celebrating our new connection. Do you remember our first prom? Tyler asked, looking at the stars. How could I forget? I laughed, recalling our first dance. We were so innocent and carefree. Yeah, and now we're here, growing, changing, he said, his tone more serious. But one thing that hasn't changed is how I feel about you. I know, I replied, looking into his eyes. And that gives me hope. The future may be uncertain, but I know I don't want to spend it without you. Then let's make a pact, he suggested, his voice steady. We promise each other that we'll support one another, no matter what happens. Even if life takes us down different paths, we'll always be friends first. It's a pact, I agreed, holding his hand. Friends, always. And there, under the starry Texas sky, we made the promise. A pact that would unite us not just as friends, but as something more. The future was still hazy, but the certainty that we would have each other filled me with courage. The sound of fireworks echoed in the distance, and I knew that this moment would change our lives forever. From that instant on, we would be more than just Sarah and Tyler. We would be a team, ready to face whatever came our way together.